Well, I'm happy to report that one of the coolest revolvers of the modern era is available again. This is the Ruger GP100 Wiley Clapp model in .357 Magnum, and after several years of them being off the market, Ruger appears to have started making them again, which is great news for anyone interested in the world of practical defensive revolvers. I had one of these several years ago but sold it off in a quest for minimalism, but I figured out minimalism when it comes to firearms is just not really my style. So when I got the notification a few months back these were in stock, I picked this one up here. Ruger's GP100 was introduced in the mid-1980s as a replacement for Ruger's Security 6 line of revolvers. It's a medium-frame steel revolver known for being a durable workhorse. You can feed it a lot of heavy Magnum loads, and it won't be much worse for the wear, which at the time set it apart from the popular Smith & Wesson K-frame revolvers that dominated the market throughout much of the 20th century. Wiley Clapp was a well-known gunwriter who left us in the summer of 2025. He began a collaboration with Taylor Distributors in 2010 to make a few different Ruger revolvers that met his criteria for a fighting wheel gun. Over the years, there were a couple of GP100 variants, as well as a few SP101s also. The GPs were initially introduced as limited runs, but it seems Ruger and Taylor produced more than initially advertised, then at some point dropped Wiley Clapp's name from the model, and then most recently have included his name again. This model is SKU number 1753 and features a 3-inch barrel, a matte blue finish, and Novak sights with a brass bead front. It comes with Ruger's full-sized rubber grip with Mr. Clapp's signature wooden grip panels with fingerprint checkering. There's also some light contouring and tapering around the barrel and trigger guard, and the front of the cylinder is beveled for easier holstering. It weighs in at 36 ounces, so it's a pretty substantial hunk of steel. The fit and finish on this one is pretty good. The hammer pin definitely has some play in it, which I find slightly annoying, but it's retained by the grips so won't affect function. I tend to really like the utilitarian, strong design of Ruger's, but after being spoiled by nice Smith & Wesson triggers, I find the triggers on the Ruger's to be not the most shootable out of the box. Every steel-framed Ruger revolver I've had always starts its life with a heavy, sometimes gritty trigger. This one didn't have any grit to it, but I just think the trigger mechanics on the GP makes for an inherently less smooth trigger pull than a comparable Smith. On my previous Wiley Clapp model, I ended up taking it apart and polishing a lot of the internals, and that combined with a lot of dry fire and shooting improved it by a lot. I plan on doing the same with this one when I have some free time, but I don't think I'm going to mess around with spring weights because this is going to be a serious defensive gun for me, and maximizing reliability is important. It's been a regular dry fire companion recently, and revolver guys will tell you that just cycling the action a lot will go a long way in improving it, because the internals start to polish themselves with enough trigger presses. I know from my last Wiley Clapp GP100 that the compact grips fit my hands and my intended use case for this gun better than the full size that are included, so I bought some from Altamont with the bonded ivory inserts. The compacts just balance really well in my hands and make a bigger difference in the overall ergonomics of the gun than I would expect. If you have a GP100 and have small to average sized hands, I definitely take a look at these, not just for the concealment advantage, but improving the overall handling of the gun. I've had this one out to the range twice with me, and have about 300 rounds through it. The vast majority of those have been with a lightly loaded .357 Magnum, essentially a 38 plus P in a Magnum case with a 158 grain lead semi-wad cutter, which for me is probably going to be close to the sweet spot in terms of velocity and recoil. I did shoot a box of Remington 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow points because I've had a box laying around forever. I'm not a big full house Magnum guy. I don't enjoy the extra blast and recoil, but if I'm going to shoot full house Magnums, I want it to be in a GP100. Between the weight and the grip design, they tend to be easier to shoot Magnums through than something like my Smith & Wesson 66-8. I'm sure there's some experienced people out there that think launching some of these hot .357s at a revolver like this one is no big deal. But for this 9mm double-stack Glock raised Millennial, they're a handful and not pleasant for me at all, even with doubled up ear pro. I would imagine cooking one off in a house in a defensive scenario would feel like a grenade going off. So I compromised between that and 38 specials with some mellower .357 reloads and commercial offerings. I haven't tested any in this GP up to this point, but I'm looking at the High Desert Cartridge Company 158 grain jacketed hollow point load, which is doing around 950 feet per second, or the Spear Gold Dot 135 grain short barrel, which is doing around 990. This is a comfortable territory for me, providing some decent ballistics while still being very controllable. In any case, I haven't had any issues with shooting the GP100 so far. My plan is to dedicate a lot of my revolver range time going forward to this GP100, partly because it's durable and also partly because I get a lot of mileage on other platforms shooting Ruger double-action triggers. The GP100 is a heavy gun, which is a feature and a hindrance at the same time. Back when I had my first one, I carried it a lot in a JM Custom Kydex appendix holster and plan on doing the same thing with this one once I'm confident with its reliability. For some people, a heavy gun is a non-starter for carry, but I feel the overall comfort of carrying a revolver with its more rounded profile balances out the fact that revolvers of this size tend to be pretty heavy. With a good belt and holster, I've carried revolvers of this size and weight all day and not been bothered by it too much. I like the Novak sights on this GP quite a bit. They're simple and snag-free, getting a sight picture is fairly quick. I like brass bead fronts generally, but sometimes I wish it popped a little more. My eyesight is not great and getting worse by the year, so something like a green fiber optic would probably be about ideal for me. In general, I really enjoy the handling characteristics of 3-inch revolvers and have found that they offer a great balance between the 4-inch barrels and the shorter barreled offerings. The 3-inch barrel combined with the compact grips feels like the perfect revolver format for me. So that's the good news. The Wiley Clapp GP100 is back on the market, and us revolver people are better for it. If you're in the market for a new defensive revolver or are just interested in dipping your toes in the revolver waters, this model deserves a hard look. Thanks for watching.